Welcome, all you sinners and sodomites, to Bible Stories for Atheists. I am Josh.
I'm also Josh.
And two Joshes, one Bible.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yes. Sexy.
Yeah. Just wait to see what we're putting in our mouths. Scrolls that taste like honey. Yeah.
My favorite.
In this episode we're going to be talking about Daniel, the book of Daniel. And this turned into a unintentional two-parter. It was just way too long. So we're recording the intro and outro for this separately. But this is the first time we're recording since we actually started releasing the episodes.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, we haven't recorded anything since we actually put out the first episode of the season. So, hi.
Hey.
To everybody. Just wanted to say hi.
Hi.
I've been seeing everybody's messages of support and everything, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. Josh needs it. He needs the encouragement, you guys.
Yeah, it's tough getting through
He
this
gets
one.
real sort of depressed about the whole thing, and it makes me wonder why anybody is ever filled with any sort of feeling other than depression when they read the Bible.
Yeah, really. Well, that's why it helps to just not read the Bible.
That's been my life
Yeah,
philosophy.
right. Life is a lot better when you don't read the Bible.
It's true. Just listen to the sultry sounds of Josh reading you the Bible.
Yeah, that goes great in this episode. Daniel just started fucking me up when it came to like reading all these stupid fucking visions where it was like where it was just so deliberately random.
Yeah. It's been a while since and you know me, I clear my cache like immediately after doing the episode.
Right.
And so like
Before you're out the door.
Yeah. So were these all like the lion and the goat and the different headed animal visions? Was that this guy? It might not be this episode.
Right.
But is it this guy? Where like they mean the different countries and that bullshit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And a little bit of that was true with Ezekiel also. But with Daniel, yes.
Yeah,
Like,
Ezekiel, it's hard to get past the boy bondage.
right, yeah. Daniel was the one where it was like a statue with the head of gold.
Oh, yes.
Chest of silver, whatever, you know.
The totem
And then
poles.
feet of clay. And,
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's like just
Yeah.
really bad analogies and symbolism. But
Kind of boring.
and it is, yeah. Anywho, but this episode's a lot of fun, so you'll enjoy it. So stick around.
Strap in and strap on.
Yeah, strap in, strap on for lions, Daniels, and statues. Oh my.
Get sued. Je parle français très bon.
Voulou chose quoi? C'est quoi?
Tu parles
I can't even get that.
français très petit.
I feel like I'm going to have to edit this out. After I Google Translate it. Okay. So much like the people who arrived at our door this morning, we want to talk to you about the Bible. Lindsay was like, no, thank you, no, not interested.
At about 11:30, 12 o'clock on the Lord's holy day.
Yeah.
We had people
the day of rest
knock on our door. I didn't let them say anything.
But their giant Bible and giant cross
Bible.
on this guy's
and you always
chest.
know it's a Bible because it's big.
Yeah.
And nobody carries around other books like that
Right.
knock on your door.
It's not somebody trying to sell you on Moby Dick.
No, they're not coming to like turn us around to the possibilities of following Tolkien.
Right. Which I feel like if anybody could, it'd probably be Tolkien.
I would be more apt to listen to somebody
become a Hobbiton.
espouse the glory of Tolkien than
Yeah.
I would Jesus. But anyway, yes, giant Bible, but again, giant book, that leather bound sort of, but it's like it doesn't have like that hard cardboard bounding,
Right.
or binding that real books have.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
that floppy leather, so you can,
Yeah.
I guess, leaf through it easier. I don't know the reason for it.
I think it's better for the binding or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But also I could tell it had those little like chapter
Indents.
indentations.
Yeah. For the books,
yeah.
not the chapters.
Right. Sorry.
No, yeah. You don't have to apologize
I
to
will
me.
never get that right. And he had the man who was probably in his 30s, maybe late 20s. He was younger.
He was younger, yeah.
Yeah.
It was surprising.
Had a even younger female
Companion
with him,
Yeah.
and I just open up the door, not the screen door, just the front, just the big door, and
Yeah.
I say, "We're not interested."
Yeah.
And he goes, "You're not interested?" And I said, "No."
No.
And then I shut the door.
And they were like, oh. And they walked away really sad.
I didn't even leave the door open long enough to watch them walk away.
I know, but I could tell they were leaving very sadly.
I didn't even give him a chance to be like, but
Yeah.
I instantly was
Nope,
like,
just
door shut.
whatever you've got going on, we
No.
need nothing. Not today, Satan.
I had to get ahead of Josh, though, because Josh will talk to these people.
Yeah.
And, like, I was trying to work. I didn't need him having a philosophical conversation with people on our front porch.
Right. Because it's really rare that we see these didn't seem to be Mormons. I don't think Mormons typically wear crosses. Definitely weren't Jehovah's Witnesses, because Jehovah's Witnesses definitely don't wear crosses.
Right, because they don't believe in the whole Jesus of it all.
They also don't believe. No, they believe in Jesus.
But
they
he's not
they
the
don't.
Son of God.
But they don't believe he died on a cross specifically.
Really?
Yeah, they believe he died on a stake. Because their translation says a tree. He died on a tree.
Oh.
It's a whole thing.
Romans famously, not
Is
to
it-
argue for
yeah.
the
Yeah.
mainstream Christians, but Romans famously crucified people on crosses.
Right. I know. I don't know what their thinking is on that, and I don't care.
No, but yeah.
But anyway, so I was surprised that this was
Yeah.
like just some generic Christians.
Right.
Who knows what denomination they were with?
Usually what happens
Because
when they're-
Lindsay chased them off
did.
before we could find out.
I did, and I'm not curious really.
That's true.
Usually when those people, it's not the Jehovah's. I've never had a Mormon come to the door. Interestingly enough,
Yeah, not yet. Not yet.
not yet. But normally when it's not a Jehovah's Witness that comes to the door and it's like a sect
Neighbor?
of Christianity, it's somebody from a neighboring church
Oh yeah, they're just
trying to
drumming
do
up.
outreach.
Well,
yeah.
drumming up
Yeah.
they're drumming up a customer base.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
And
they're
we're not
advertising.
Yeah, we're not interested. The
Right.
last time somebody knocked on our door in a holy way was the Jehovah's Witnesses.
And they were not straightforward about who
They
they
were.
were.
They called themselves the JW.org or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And Josh was like, I know your tricks. And you got into it about how
I know your
told
tricks.
us-
I didn't say that. but
you told him about how the Jehovah's Witnesses were extremely abusive to a lot of people in your family and how you basically were like, I hate you and all you stand for.
Kinda, yeah. I at the end I was like, because he was asking me like, are you spiritual? I was like, nope. I was completely fucking up his script
Yeah.
every step of the way.
Right.
Where I'm like, no, I'm not, and I'm also not afraid of what's going on in the world
Right.
because it has nothing to do with.
Yeah.
I have no control over it, so why be afraid
Right.
and everything? And it's like, well, that's how we get people to join us is making people afraid
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
everything. And
Yeah.
and then at the end I was like, by the way, The Jehovah's Witnesses has covered up a lot of sexual abuse. And he's like, I can do my own research. And then, okay.
But after they left today, I instantly was like, oh man, lost opportunity to be like, yeah, sure, come in. Have you guys seen the movie The Heretic?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what's really cool about our house, you guys? Our dirt basement. You want to go see it?
Oh, my God. Anyway.
And see how they react to that.
Right, yeah.
Probably never actually watching the movie.
No.
Heretic.
I mean, the Jehovah's Witnesses definitely wouldn't watch that, but...
No, nothing above PG, right? Or
they
PG-13?
All rules are gone at this point. Nobody actually knows what's going on.
So let's talk about the end of the world.
Sure, why not? So in previous episodes, we talked about oh God, what the fuck did we? Oh, last episode was Ezekiel. Mm-hmm. It's been a bit since we recorded.
Was it Ezekiel?
Yeah. Because that was the one where you were like, well, that's fucked up.
Oh, the really, really weird one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really, where he like bound Ezekiel with cords. When he was a 13-year-old boy,
yes.
God bound him with cords.
Yes, the God kink story.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. Had him build a little paper mache version of the city of Jerusalem and attack it.
Right. It was. I got to give it points for creative writing.
Yeah.
Negative points for anybody who ever put that story in the actual Bible.
Right. It was a fucked up story. In the last episode, we talked about the very disturbed prophet named Ezekiel, who was exiled to Babylon when Judah was conquered to the Babylonian Empire. Conquered by the Babylonian Empire. Daniel, who we are talking about today, was a Jewish noble, also exiled to Babylon. So this is set around 600 BCE. There are two main parts of this book. There's chapters 1 through 6, which are stories about Daniel and his friends, which are like folk tales, kind of. And then there's chapters 7 through 12 that are 4 apocalyptic visions.
Oh.
Yeah.
This is a short one.
Yeah, but we're going to be covering a lot of it, kind of. So I also kind of feel like this is going to be a long one.
Oh, I was just thinking 12 chapters is not.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like a lot, but
they're long.
But they're all kind of their own thing, and it's worth kind of getting into. Especially the folk tales, which are like arguably the least important part of the whole thing, but they're also kind of the more interesting stories.
Right.
Like you'll probably recognize a couple of these.
Oh, is Daniel the guy that fought the lion?
Yeah, but he doesn't really fight a lion.
Right.
But it's Daniel and the lion's den.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it ends with these 4 apocalyptic visions, but these apocalyptic visions don't seem to have anything to do with what's going on in Daniel's life. Okay. It seems to have a lot to do with what's going on about 400 years later. And after the Babylonians and the Persians came the Greeks.
Okay.
Which I think in the last episode or something, I made a joke about how next came the Romans, and it wasn't. The Greeks came next. Alexander the Great overthrows the Persian Empire, but when he dies, his empire gets split up. And Jerusalem becomes part of I'm probably going to fuck this up, the Seleucid Empire, I think is how you pronounce it. This is when we start getting Hellenization or Hellenized Jews.
Oh.
Which was talked about, they mentioned it in the New Testament, like in the book of Acts, I think, when we were reading it, they talked about Hellenistic Jews and stuff. Basically, Hellenization is what folks called the Greek cultural influence of the time, right? So, like kind of like today, or especially like, I don't know, 50 years ago, you went around the world, you would see an American influence in other people's cultures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or a Western influence.
Sure, not.
But yeah, nowadays more people are turning away from it, which is understandable. But that's kind of the same thing here, right? Greek is such a dominant culture. So if you were a rich and powerful Jewish person in Jerusalem around this time, you were probably also really into Greek culture and possibly even starting to practice Greek religion, right?
Okay.
Unlike Persia, the Seleucids really push Jews to stop practicing their own religion, going so far as to force Jews to stop circumcising their sons, which maybe not a bad thing, you know?
Right.
Or practicing rituals in the temple, right? And they even converted the temple into a temple for Zeus and sacrificed a pig there, which you can imagine really pissed off a lot of people. So this kicks off the Maccabean Revolt, which is a really interesting story that we should cover someday, but we're not covering it today. But for now, all we really need to know is that the Greeks were being dicks to the Jews during this time, hundreds of years after Daniel. And it's around this time that the book of Daniel gets composed, like it gets compiled together, right? Is around this time. So the folk stories about Daniel were likely handed down, especially since they were written in Aramaic, which is the language they would have been speaking in Babylon, right? And then they added these apocalyptic visions to it later, and those are written in Hebrew. So that's another thing that most people don't realize is Daniel straight up is written in different languages.
Right. Which is your first hint that they weren't
and this
written by the same people.
And this book, I will say too, this book seems to be the linchpin for a lot of people out there who think that the Bible is supernatural. Like the apocalyptic visions in this book is what I've heard a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses say, like, well, this is how we know that the Bible is actually
these
supernatural.
Visions came true.
Yeah.
But they believe that
they were written
400 years prior to the event.
Not only that, but they also believe, and we'll get into this, they also believe the visions are saying something that they are not. They're saying, like, they're giving, they're attributing to it a different history.
Okay.
Sort of, and you'll see when we get to it. But so anyway, that's what the book of Daniel is kind of all about.
Okay.
So chapter 1. The book opens by saying that we're in such and such year of such and such king, blah, 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 blah. Then the king commanded his palace master Ashpenaz, to bring some of the Israelites to the royal family and of the nobility, young men without physical defect and handsome, versed in every branch of wisdom, endowed with knowledge and insight, and competent to serve in the king's palace. They were to be taught the literature and language of the Chaldeans. The king assigned them a daily portion of the royal rations of food and wine. They were to be educated for 3 years, so that at the end of that time they could be stationed in the king's court. Among them were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah from the tribe of Judah. The palace master gave them other names. Daniel he called Belshazzar. Hananiah he called Shadrach. Mishael he called Meshach. And Azariah he called Abednego. Okay.
Pokemon names.
They kind of do.
Like these are just their evolutionary.
Belteshazzar, I choose you. Okay. So Chaldeans, they came up actually in the last episode too, I think. These were experts in various fields like astronomy, astrology, and divination, and they often served in the royal court as advisors.
Okay.
That's who Chaldeans were.
So the king rounded up some hot dudes.
Yeah.
And was like, come live in my house.
Right.
I will teach you.
Yeah.
And then
you will work
for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it really sounded to me like he just wanted some fuckboys. That like, and he wants them to be smart. Like, you want some good pillow talk out of them.
At the very least, he just wanted some nice eye candy.
Maybe.
Like, why, if you were a king, and I don't know what this king looked like, but knowing my history of kings, probably not that attractive.
Right.
I feel like kings famously have been like the least attractive.
Typically not.
People in the room.
Especially if they've been inbred a few times.
So why would you bring all these hot guys into your court?
If not to fuck.
Well, even if that is the case, like clearly he wasn't, I don't know what the vibe was at the time. Maybe that was a cool thing to do. And,
I think that's always been a cool thing to do.
Yeah. For kings.
Yeah. I think so.
In the fucking 1950s, you think that the royals would have gotten away with that without?
I bet they did.
Well, secretly.
They're not being obvious. They're not being honest about it here.
Well,
They're,
that's true.
That's
true. They didn't come out and say
I'm reading between the lines here.
I like how this is what everybody does to the Bible, but your and I's version of that is like, yeah, they were fucking each other a lot.
They were all
like there was tons of man-on-man sex in the Bible.
And what's funny too is like we don't fucking know what he looked like. Like they're just telling us like, oh, these are very handsome men. Yeah, and it's like okay, but we who fucking knows,
right?
Anyway,
yeah.
It goes on, but Daniel resolved that he would not defile himself with the royal rations of food and wine. So he asked the palace master to allow him not to defile himself. Now God granted Daniel favor and compassion from the palace master. The palace master said to Daniel, I am afraid of my lord the king. He has appointed your food and your drink. If he should see you are in poorer condition than the other young men of your age, you would endanger my head with the king. Then Daniel asked the guard whom the palace master had appointed over Daniel. Jesus fucking Christ.
The pyramid scheme.
Yeah. Then Daniel asked the guard whom the palace master had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servants for 10 days. Let us be given vegetables to eat and water to drink. You can then compare our appearance with the appearance of young men who eat the royal rations and deal with your servants according to what you observe. So he agreed to this proposal and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, it was observed that they appeared better and fatter than all the young men who had been eating the royal rations. So the guard continued to withdraw their royal rations and wine they were to drink and gave them vegetables. To these 4 young men, God gave knowledge and skill in every aspect of literature and wisdom. Daniel also had the insight of all visions and dreams.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah. So what they don't tell you is they were breading and deep frying these vegetables.
Well, I'm like... This just sounds like they're trying to like get people to buy into veganism.
It was jalapeno poppers.
Why? I don't this
I know.
is what I hate about
there's nothing in here describing why the food and wine would defile them.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So that's an annoying part of it.
Because there's certain meats that if you're in Judaism, you cannot eat, and meat has to be prepared a certain way. So maybe that's what it was. Is just that it wasn't.
But
kosher.
Nothing about the wine. There's no issue with that.
Wine still has to be made kosher.
I don't know, to my knowledge, if there's a kosher.
I thought there was specific wines that. Well, I mean, Manischewitz famously is like.
I don't know, maybe, but one thing I made a note here is it's possible that the wine, the food and wine, might have been offered to Greek gods previously, like you sacrifice,
right,
quote unquote, to the gods, but really that just means like, all right, now you can eat it,
right.
I don't get these old timey religions, but that might have been it. It's a failure of the Bible to not make it more clear what the issue there is.
Yeah, because otherwise it just feels like the start of like militant veganism.
Yeah. Right. And I don't know why that's not a thing.
Right.
Like except for the fact that people like eating meat. And so they're not going to do something they don't want to do.
Right.
You know?
And how do you get fat off of eating vegetables? Literally, both of our doctors are like, bitches, eat more vegetables.
Yeah.
And we're like, no.
Let me tell you about this Bible verse. I don't know why my doctor doesn't listen to me. The Maccabean revolt was also where the story of Hanukkah comes from. So
with the lamp?
Yeah. So, which we're not getting into right now, but basically it came down to there's only going to be enough oil to keep this lamp lit for a couple days, but it miraculously lasted 8 days, as I recall. 8 crazy days.
8 crazy nights.
8 crazy nights. Is that the name of the movie?
Yeah, the Adam Sandler.
The animated one?
Based on his song?
Yeah. It seems like subtle miracles were kind of in vogue at the time, right? And it probably because people weren't having a lot of wins, you know? But
like in the 90s when everybody started seeing like Jesus and Mary and food.
Right.
Yeah. Like that was, I haven't heard about a Jesus and a piece of toast in a while, but I feel like in the 90s, like that was the hot shit.
Yeah. It was cutting edge technology.
People were just seeing Jesus and fucking Mary everywhere.
Right. So anyway, the whole getting fat off of vegetables, I feel like is a subtle miracle, kind of in line with all of that. Anyway, the chapter wraps up with this. At the end of the time that the king had set for them to be brought in, the palace master brought them into the presence of Nebuchadnezzar, who is the king, and the king spoke with them. Among them all, no one was found to compare with Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore, they were stationed in the king's court. In every matter of wisdom and understanding concerning which the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters in the whole kingdom. And Daniel continued there until the first year of King Cyrus. So these 4 hot rich guys get groomed to service the royals, and God has made them smart and such. It reminds me a lot of, like, it's in the same tradition of the story of Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat, where like, you know, he's in prison and we just keep getting told over and over again that God shows him favor and that God showed him favor and therefore this person showed him favor. And, you know, it's like, and we're never really shown in what way is any of this done, you know, like why are they so smart, you know, but
it's because they're so attractive, Josh.
Right. Really.
I don't know if you remember from like all of the stories in the Bible, but God loves a hot dude.
He does. That's true.
Like that is how he makes 50% of his decisions is the hotness of the dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what half the stories in Judges told me at least.
Right. Yeah. Samson with his foxes. Chapter 2 is set in the second year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, and he's having disturbing dreams, so much so that he isn't sleeping. He calls in the magicians and the Chaldeans to tell him his dreams, and they're all like, sure, tell us what the dream is, and we'll interpret it for you. The king answered the Chaldeans, this is a public decree. If you do not tell me both the dream and its interpretation, you shall be torn limb from limb, and your houses shall be laid in ruins. But if you do tell me the dream and its interpretation, you shall receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore, tell me the dream and its interpretation. They answered a second time, let the king first tell his servants the dream, then we can give its interpretation. The king answered, I know with certainty that you are trying to gain time because you see the decree from me is firm. If you do not tell me the dream, there is but one verdict for you. You have agreed to speak lying and misleading words to me until things take a turn. Therefore, tell me the dream, and I shall know that you can give me its interpretation. The Chaldeans answered the king, there is no one on earth who can reveal what the king demands. In fact, no king, however great and powerful, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or Chaldean. The thing that the king is asking is too difficult, and no one can reveal it to the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with mortals. Because of this, the king flew into a violent rage, commanded all the wise men of Babylon be destroyed. The decree was issued, and the wise men were about to be executed, and they looked for Daniel and his companions to execute them. Then Daniel responded with prudence and discretion to Arioch, the king's chief executioner, who had gone out to execute the wise men of Babylon. He asked Arioch, the royal official, why is the decree of the king so urgent? Arioch then explained the matter to Daniel, so Daniel went in and requested that the king give him time, and he would tell the king the interpretation. So Daniel's going to go tell the king.
Yeah, his dream.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
And then Daniel gets a vision explaining it all to him, the dream and the interpretation. So, of course, he writes a little poem about how great God is and all that. And then we'll get into the follow-up to that.
But, like, what a piece of shit this king is.
Yeah.
Like, for sure, right?
I mean, he's thinking critically, at least. Like, no. If you really are able to give me a divine interpretation of what's going on,
you should
then you should be able to,
the dream without me telling it to you.
I think it's a fair thing to.
You think so?
Yeah, that's what I would. If somebody was telling me that they were supernaturally able to divine the future from a dream, I'd be like, all right, well, you tell me what the dream was, and then I'll know.
Yeah, but those are two different power sets.
Sure. But
do you not know anything about like
also
the X-Men?
Both bullshit.
Well, true, but like, listen, if you have future knowing powers, does it mean you can also read fucking minds? Those are two different powers.
Well, you could if
there are at least 20 different characters in the X-Men who have those two powers separately.
I disagree. You can see the future of yourself telling them.
No, that's not how it works.
If it was real.
Usually, I mean, that's
would be like the Nicolas Cage classic
Next.
Knowing. Next? Was it Next?
It might be Knowing. I lose track of.
It might have been Next.
I feel like Next was the one where he could see like 30 seconds into the future or something like that, right?
Yeah. It's a brilliant movie.
Point being, like, just because somebody's a magician doesn't mean that they have all of the powers in the magician toolbox, right?
Right.
Some people specialize in things and don't have all the powers.
Right. Like maybe they're just a specialist in potions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like the problem here is the king didn't have like comic books or Harry Potter to lean off of to know that what he's asking is very unreasonable. He should have at least asked
Hermione.
Does anybody here also know how to read minds?
Can I get a show of hands?
Do I have any mind readers in the bunch, or are you all just like...
Why are you raising your hand? Oh, you knew I was going to say it. Perfect.
Then you tell me my dream.
Right.
You tell them my dream, and then all of you come together and tell me what it means. Like,
or we could just start basing our decisions not on dreams.
Right. Yes, of course. Certainly. Is the more reasonable, like, some lady should have come around and been like, you know what'll make you feel better? Blowjob.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was my dream.
This guy sounds like he needs just a little bit of relaxation.
It would be hilarious if that was his dream. Was just getting a blowjob. Interpret it.
Do you think they got blowjobs back? The blowjobs have been around since the beginning of time.
I guarantee it.
Right?
Yeah.
since the first penis accidentally fell into the mouth of another person,
Yeah, that's definitely how it happened.
blowjobs have been a thing.
So it was some, monkey-like creature climbing the tree, and the dick just got into the mouth of this other monkey. It was oh. Keeps rubbing his dick in the other monkey's face.
Fucking YouTube video. You guys could have just all watched the little weird monkey blowjob dance.
Monkey blowjob dance. That's the name of my punk band.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Therefore, Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to destroy the wise men of Babylon, and said to them, "Do not destroy the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will give the king the interpretation." Then Arioch quickly brought Daniel before the king and said to him, "I have found among the exiles of Judah a man who can tell the king the interpretation." The king said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, "Are you able to tell me the dream that I have seen and its interpretation?" Daniel answered the king, "No wise man, enchanters, blah, 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 blah." He does. "You were looking, O king, and there appeared a great statue. The statue was huge, its brilliance extraordinary. It was standing before you, and its appearance was frightening. The head of the statue was of fine gold, the chest and arms of silver, its midsection and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. As you looked on, a stone was cut out, not by human hands, and it struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and broke them into pieces. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were all broken in pieces and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away so that not a trace of them could be found. But the stone that struck the statue became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. That was the dream. Now we will tell the king its interpretation. You, O king, the king of kings, to whom God of heaven has given the kingdom, the power, the might, and the glory, into whose hand he has given human beings wherever they live, the wild area, blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. It's a lot of bullshit.
It's a lot of flaving.
Yeah. Let's skip this. So the head of gold, basically, fuck it. The head of gold is the Babylonian Empire.
Okay.
The chest of arms and silver is meant to be the Medo-Persian Empire. The belly and thighs of bronze is the Greek Empire. Okay, actually, let me rephrase this. So this is the Christian interpretation of this.
Okay.
Or not necessarily Christian, maybe Christians, some Christians, definitely the Jehovah's Witness version of it, as I understand it, is this, where it's like the head of gold is the Babylonian Empire, the chest of arms and silver are the Medo-Persian Empire, the belly of bronze and thighs of bronze is the Greek Empire, the legs of iron is the Roman Empire, so that's well after this the 200 or 400 years later, right? So that's the Roman Empire. And then the feet of iron and clay is a divided kingdom in the future, likely like the later stages of the Roman Empire.
Okay.
Is how they would interpret it. And then the stone that strikes the statue is God's eternal kingdom, coming to destroy this empire, right? That
all these empires,
yeah. But here's the important thing to keep in mind: except for the Babylonian Empire being the head, it is never said which kingdoms these represent. There's never anything in this that says who these represent. So there's no definitive way to say this is absolutely a prophecy of the future, right? Most modern scholars agree, this is from Wikipedia, most modern scholars agree that the four world empires symbolized by the statue are Babylonian, Medes, which would have been the arms and shoulders. Persia, the legs, the thighs and legs. The Seleucid Empire, and Ptolemaic Egypt being the feet. So the concept of the four successive world empires is drawn from Greek theories of mythological history, while the symbolism of the four metals is drawn from Persian writings. The consensus among scholars is that the four beasts of chapter 7, which we haven't gotten to yet, symbolize the same four world empires. Verses 41 through 43 give different verses and give different interpretations of meaning about the mixture of iron and clay at the statue's feet as a divided kingdom, then as strong and brittle, and finally as a dynastic marriage. Basically, the Greeks and the Egyptians were getting it on at this time. And it was a matter of like, will their alliance hold together? Gotcha. Is what it sounds like.
Okay.
And so this would have been saying that the Greeks and the Egyptians are on shaky ground.
Okay.
With it.
The Babylonians, the Medes?
Yeah, as in like media, the like median. I don't know. Like it's
those all sound like math terms.
Yeah. But it's all like that's probably because they came up with it.
Median?
Yeah, it's around Persia.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to Google it.
We've talked about them before, but it's always like Medo and stuff like that. But it literally, I think the land was Media.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah. So anyway, that's and we're gonna keep coming back to that kind of.
So this is the dream that the king had, and this is the dream that freaked him out so much that he was going to kill a bunch of people over not being able to tell him his weird ass dream.
Right.
It just sounds like a really ugly statue.
Yeah, poorly built at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he needed to know what the answer to it
I mean,
was.
I guess if I had a dream about a statue and it was made of all those different materials and then a rock broke it, I would probably also wake up and be like, what the fuck?
That was expensive.
That was weird.
Yeah.
You would never make a statue out of all of those different types of materials.
Definitely not in that order.
No way. Especially clay on the bottom. Are you kidding?
That's stupid.
Asking for disaster.
Clay and iron mixed together. And then the chapter wraps up. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face, worshipped Daniel, and commanded that a grain offering and incense be offered to him. The king said to Daniel, "Truly, your God is God of gods and Lord of kings and a revealer of mysteries, for you have been able to reveal this mystery." Then the king promoted Daniel, gave him many great gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief prefect over all the wise men of Babylon. Daniel made a request of the king, and he had Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel remained at the king's court. Wants to keep him close. So, Nebuchadnezzar really likes him and everything.
Well, yeah, he told him. Well, listen, even if what he interprets his fucked up dream to be, even if that's bullshit, the fact that he knew what his fucked up dream was, that's pretty impressive.
Right.
If I were a king, I'd keep him around too.
Yeah. You can read minds.
Mind reader.
Yeah.
Also, you can't let a guy that reads minds leave.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You don't want him just out and about.
No, you don't want him telling people what you're thinking.
Right. Or everything you did to him. Because again.
Yeah.
Chapter 3, Nebuchadnezzar makes a golden statue unrelated to his dream. It's 60 cubits high and 60 cubits wide. 60 cubits equals about 90 feet. So it's
90 feet high and wide?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. 1 foot narrow, though. It's just barely standing.
Oh, it says
no,
1 foot narrow?
we don't know how.
Oh.
We don't know. It just says wide and high. And it's like, was it just a square?
Right.
Or
Did he make an obelisk?
yeah. He demands that all the satraps, prefects, and the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the justices, the magistrates, and all the officials of all the provinces come to see the dedication of the statue. And we get this. When they were standing before the statue that Nebuchadnezzar had set up, the herald proclaimed aloud, "You are commanded, O peoples, nations, and languages, that when you hear the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon." That's what the president wants to turn the Pentagon into.
Trigon.
Trigon.
Yeah.
Harp. I thought I had heard that recently. And I was like, what is a trigon? A trigon, a harp, drum, and an entire musical ensemble. You are to fall down and worship the golden statue that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Whoever does not fall down and worship shall immediately be thrown into a furnace of blazing fire. Therefore, as soon as all of the peoples heard the sound of the hornpipe, lyre, trigon, harp, drum, and entire musical ensemble, all the peoples, nations, and languages fell down and worshiped the golden statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Accordingly, at this time, certain Chaldeans came forward and denounced the Jews. They said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "O king, live forever. You, O king, have made a decree that," and we've heard all that. There are certain Jews whom you have appointed over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men pay no heed to you, O king. They do not serve your gods. They do not worship the golden statue that you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in furious rage, commanded that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought in. So they brought those men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods and you do not worship the golden statue I have set up? Now, if you are ready, when you hear the sound of the horn, pipe, etc., you shall fall down and worship the statue that I have made. But if you do not, you shall immediately be thrown into a furnace of blazing fire. And who is the God who will deliver you out of my hands?" Probably the same one from the last chapter when we're just talking to these people.
The one that helped Daniel know your dream.
Right.
The one that gave him vegetable powers.
Yeah, and then you promoted these guys because of it.
Yeah.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered the king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, you have no need to present a defense to you in this manner. If our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the furnace of blazing fire out of your hand, O king, let him deliver us. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods and we will not worship the golden statue that you have set up." And like I said, literally one chapter before, Nebuchadnezzar says to them, "Truly your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings and revealer of mysteries." So short-term memory loss.
Well, it sounds more like he was saying that and it was like just them in the room.
Yeah.
And then like word got out that like these guys aren't doing what everybody else has to do, and it's pissed him off, and he doesn't want like the serfs to like fucking know.
Well, you would think like if he thinks that their God is real, and he's seen enough evidence of them being able to read his mind and whatnot, he would be like, let it go. Yeah, and maybe he wouldn't just build his own golden statue,
or at least be performative and we'd like bring him in and then be like, "Listen, guys, like I have to do this because I have to keep everybody else in line, but listen, I don't give a fuck who you worship because Daniel can read my mind, and I'm not gonna mess around with that."
Yeah, but this is a good reason why I think it's really easy to see that these are just some folk tales that don't necessarily even have anything to do with each other. Somebody tried to tie them together, but like even this story is very similar to like, I can't remember. It's literally the next thing that we talk about. I don't think it is, but there's the Daniel and the Lion's Den story is very similar to this story. So it's kind of like, and the fact that their names keep changing.
Yeah.
That's always a dead giveaway
Right.
of like, they're just compiling together different folk stories and saying that they're the same people,
Yeah. And they totally can get away with it because famously in the Bible, kings have always been like presented as wishy-washy.
Right.
Essentially.
Yeah.
But really it's just poor
storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Poor editing. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, so it goes on. Then Nebuchadnezzar was so filled with rage against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego that his face was distorted.
Whoa.
Yeah. He ordered the furnace heated up 7 times more than was customary and ordered some of the strongest guards in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and to throw them into the furnace of blazing fire. So the men were bound, still wearing their tunics, their trousers, their hats, and their other garments, and they were thrown into the furnace of blazing fire. Because the king's command was urgent and the furnace was so overheated, the raging flames killed the men who lifted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But the 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound into the furnace of blazing fire. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished and rose up quickly. He said to his counselors, "Was it not 3 men that we threw bound into the fire?" Again, short-term memory loss.
Right.
They answered the king, "True, O king," he replied, "but I see 4 men unbound walking in the middle of the fire, and they are not hurt, and the 4th has the appearance of a god." Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wait, what does that mean?
Right. Yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar then approached the door of the furnace of blazing fire and said, "Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire completely butt-ass naked. It doesn't say that. And
definitely though.
But definitely,
yeah.
right?
Like God saved them, but not their clothes.
No, why would he?
Right.
And the satraps, prefects, the governors, and the king's counselors gathered together and saw that the fire had not had any power over the bodies of those men. The hair on their heads had not been singed. Their tunics were not scorched.
Oh.
Not even the smell of fire came off of them.
Wow.
Yeah, that's amazing. God is for breeze.
Yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar said, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent us his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him. They disobeyed the king's command and yielded up their bodies rather than serve and worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I make a decree. Any people, nation, or language that utters blasphemy against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be torn limb from limb, and their houses laid in ruins." He has a particular thing where he loves tearing people limb from limb and laying their houses in ruins. "And there is no other God who is able to deliver in this way." Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. Whatever that means. I don't know where they're at in the line of succession as is. But
well, now they're higher. And what a glorious piece of propaganda that is, right? Yeah. For sure.
Right.
Like, they held strong in their faith, so therefore God saved them from the fires, and because of this, the king saw the error of his ways and glorified the God that they believe in. Now everyone
just like he did in the last chapter,
believe in the God that they believe in.
Yeah.
Even though the real lesson of that is like, don't let somebody fucking tell you to believe something different. Stay strong in your own faith.
Yeah.
It's definitely like, stay strong in their faith, not in your own faith.
Right.
Which is what the lesson should have been.
Right. Yeah. In chapter 4, this is a great example of chopped up writings. It starts with a short intro and a poem about how great Nebuchadnezzar is. And then we get a chunk written from the king Nebuchadnezzar's perspective. Then it goes back to third person for a few paragraphs. Then it wraps up with another section from Nebuchadnezzar, right? So it's just a bunch of different writings that have just been chopped together. And we're going to read all of them.
Oh,
I, Nebuchadnezzar, was living at ease in my home and prospering in my palace. I saw a dream that frightened me, my fantasies in bed, and the visions of my head terrified me. So I made a decree. It loves his decrees. I made a decree that all the wise men of Babylon should be brought before me, in order that they might tell me the interpretation of the dream. Then the magicians, enchanters, and Chaldeans, and the diviners came in and told me and I told them the dream, but they could not tell me its interpretation. At last, Daniel came in before me, he who was named Belshazzar, after the name of my God, and who is endowed with the spirit of the holy gods. I told him the dream. Oh, Belshazzar, chief of the magicians, I know that you are endowed with the spirit of the holy gods, and that no mystery is too difficult for you. Hear the dream that I saw and tell me its interpretation. Upon my bed, this is what I saw. There was a tree at the center of the earth, and its height was great. The tree grew great and strong. Its top, this is poetry at this point, by the way.
Okay. I'm not going to butt in until you're done.
Okay, I've got a little bit, but the tree grew great and strong. Its top reached to the heaven, and it was visible to the ends of the whole earth. Its foliage was beautiful, its fruit abundant, and it provided food for all. The animals of the field found shade under it. The birds of the air nested in its branches, and from it all living beings were fed. I continued looking in the visions of my head as I lay in bed, and there was a holy watcher coming down from heaven. He cried aloud and said, "Cut down the tree and chop off its branches, strip off its foliage and scatter its fruit. Let the animals flee from beneath it and the birds from its branches, but leave its stump and roots in the ground with a band of iron and bronze in the tender grass of the field. Let him be bathed with the dew of heaven, and let his lot be with the animals in the grass of the earth. Let his mind be changed from that of a human, and let the mind of an animal be given to him, and let 7 times pass over him. The sentence is rendered by decree of the watchers. The decision is given by order of the holy ones, in order that all who live may know that the Most High is sovereign over the kingdom of mortals. He gives it to whom he will, and sets over it the lowliest of human beings. This is the dream that I, King Nebuchadnezzar, saw. Now, I thought it said not you. No. Now you, Belshazzar, declare the interpretation, since all the wise men of the kingdom are unable to tell me its interpretation. You are able, however, for you are endowed with the spirit of the holy gods.
Wait, okay.
Yeah.
Lies.
Lies.
Is this him retelling what had already happened? Or is this a new dream?
This is a new dream.
Okay. Because at first...
Nobody ever remembers anything of previous chapters in this.
It sounded to me like he was recounting the earlier events and that it was just completely fucking different.
Oh, no. So this is a different dream he's disturbed by.
So now he's decided that he doesn't need them to guess his dream.
Right.
He's going to tell it to them.
Still going to ask all those people that couldn't tell him the dream
Even though
before.
he knows Daniel was like his guy.
Yeah.
He's going to go to them first.
And they could not interpret it, which I don't know if that means like they literally can't tell what it means, or if they're like, I'm not even going to fucking try with him, you know?
It just sounds like it's just a different version of the other story.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Much like how I said Daniel in the lion's den is a lot like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Right.
Like this is another story very similar.
Definitely. Because why, again, you're right. Why would you go back to the first people, the group of the first people, after Daniel successfully was like, here is your dream and here's what it means.
Right.
Why would you even fucking bother?
Right. Exactly.
I mean, you have him there for a reason.
Yeah.
Why are you going through all these extra steps other than this is literally just a different verbally told version of the same story?
Right. Yep. And also it's not even totally the same story because
the dream's different.
Well, because this is chopped up from multiple different writings. Again, like there's sections of poetry that are getting pulled in.
Right.
All the stuff that, like, when you actually are reading through this and you recognize like how this stuff gets compiled, you realize like, oh, these poems really didn't have to have anything to do with the overall story.
Right.
This could have just been poetry about something totally different, or it could be about what we're talking about here, but it wasn't part of any prophecy or anything like that.
Right.
You know. Oh, I have a note here. So he's having more dreams, and he just decided to write them down as poems. Like, I mean,
he doesn't need people to guess at for some reason.
Well, he does need him to. He needs them to tell him what they mean, but not what the actual content.
For some reason, he's decided that he's not going to do that anymore.
But he decided to write them down as poems,
Instead
which
of
is
a
interesting.
dream journal.
Yeah, and
Cute.
he's been working on his lyrics.
So when anybody, listen, dear listeners, if anybody ever gives you shit about keeping a dream journal, you just tell them that it's biblical.
Yeah. And that will make people stop making fun of you.
Well, it depends on the audience, for
sure. It definitely does. If you said that to Lindsay, she'd be like, not interested.
Yeah, none of this I like.
Keep it moving.
But if if you're one of those dream journal people and you have hyper Christian parents, you can totally like blow their fucking wigs off by being like, Nebuchadnezzar kept a dream journal.
Probably wouldn't even remember who Nebuchadnezzar was.
They'd be like, what are you talking about? What book is that from? And then you can say, Daniel, bitches.
They're like, that's part of the Jewish Bible. That doesn't count. Don't quote scripture unless it's from the New Testament. So he's going to ask Belshazzar, what his dreams would mean again. Daniel tells him that he, the king, is the tree.
Okay.
And it goes on. You have grown great and strong. Your greatness has increased and reaches to the heaven, and your sovereignty to the ends of the earth. Again, just to call this out, we talked about it in Ezekiel too, how it's never actually critical of the Babylonians. It's always very praisey of them, which is a weird thing when you think about it. But
this would have been
anything that would have criticized, like any original stories that would have criticized that might have originated from when the time was, they wouldn't have made it if it was like critical of the Babylonian
Babylonians
Empire.
Would have destroyed it.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's just always interesting to me
it's
how much, but it's always like, the Babylonian Empire was good because, that's why God allowed it to conquer us and stuff, like there's this weird thing of constantly talking up the Babylonian Empire.
Yes. Very pertinent to the way I think a lot of Christians feel about the current state of the United States government.
Yeah. No kidding. So anyway, you have grown great and strong. Your greatness has increased and reaches to the heaven, and the sovereignty to the ends of the earth. When it comes to about cutting down the tree, you shall be driven away from human society. You and your dwelling shall be with the wild animals. You shall be made to eat grass like oxen. You shall be bathed with the dew of heaven, and 7 times shall pass over you until you have learned that the Most High has sovereignty over the kingdom of mortals and gives it to whom he will. As it was commanded to leave the stump and roots of the tree, your kingdom shall be reestablished for you from the time that you learn that heaven is sovereign. Therefore, O king, may my counsel be acceptable to you. Atone for your sins with righteousness and your iniquities with mercy to the oppressed, so that your prosperity may be prolonged. Okay.
This just sounds like Daniel's like trying to make sure that he is important to the king.
To the king, yeah.
Yeah.
But what Daniel's saying is that the king is about to lose his kingship.
And if he turns to the Lord.
Yeah. And
if he becomes the born again.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
And is this like close to Nebuchadnezzar? It was a guy, right? Like
he was the king.
Like
true. A real person.
He's a real person. So, would he been? Sorry, I've been drinking too much blood of Christ. Would he have been close to losing
his kingdom and stuff?
Kingdom
I don't know
at this point.
I can't remember. We'll see if I have notes on this because I can't recall. I don't think I do have notes on whether or not this is real. But at the end of the 12 months, it goes on. At the end of 12 months, he was walking on the roof of the royal palace of Babylon, and the king said, Is this not magnificent Babylon, which I have built as a royal capital by my mighty power and my glorious majesty? While the words were still in the king's mouth, a voice came down from heaven. O King Nebuchadnezzar, to you it is declared, the kingdom is taken from you. You shall be driven away from human society, and your dwelling shall be with the animals of the field. You shall be made to eat grass like oxen, and 7 times shall pass over you until you have learned that the Most High has sovereignty over the kingdom of mortals and gives it to whom he will. Immediately, the sentence was fulfilled against Nebuchadnezzar. He was driven away from human society. He ate grass like an oxen, and his body was bathed with the dew of heaven until his hair grew as long as eagle's feathers, and his nails became like birds' claws. So, and then, like I said, we wrap up from the king's perspective because we go back to the king's perspective at the end of this. When that period was over, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted my eyes to heaven and my reason returned to me. I blessed the Most High and praised and honored the one who lives forever, for his sovereignty is an everlasting sovereignty, blah, 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 God's great and all. At the time, my reason returned to me, my majesty and splendor were restored to me for the glory of the kingdom, blah, 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 blah. I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol the King of heaven, blah, 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 blah.
So he went
nanners
on a little sabbatical.
Yeah, he went crazy.
But like happened. Everyone just kind of waited around for him to come back.
Apparently,
somebody didn't just
take the throne,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like historically,
well, if he's not dead, you know.
Yeah, but I feel
no, totally. There normally would be like a coup or something.
How long was he gone? Like a year.
It's 7 years.
7 years.
That's what the 7 times thing.
They just let him be an absent king for 7 years.
Go eat grass and stuff. Like it reminds me of he basically pulled a Howard Hughes.
Oh, you know, he peed in jars.
Probably peed in jars. Yeah.
He was trying to like become one with the goats.
Yeah, become one with the goats.
Yeah. Like the goat guy, right? The one that would dress as goats and like wander around and be with the goats. Like this is an actual dude. Like recently. Recently? Like within the past 20 years, he would like put a little goat costume on.
I know who you're talking about.
Like
and he had like prosthetic goat legs.
Yeah, and he would go hang out with the goats. Or like, you know, or the grizzly man.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh my God. That's wild. There is absolutely no way that a king could be absent from ruling
For 7 years.
For 7 years, and somebody hasn't taken control in his stead. Like, that's just never, like, unless he doesn't hold
you're all better now?
Right.
Come on back.
Yeah. Unless he doesn't hold the true power.
Yeah.
Right? And then that's maybe the point.
Maybe. I don't know. You read something like this, maybe it was maybe it was something that actually did happen, or something similar to this actually did happen.
For 7 years and nobody conquered his fucking kingdom while he was gone.
Yeah, maybe something like that happened. But then this is like, well, this is why, and it was our God that
turned
like
to God.
Yeah,
Yes.
Or they just made it up entirely.
100%.
Who knows?
100%.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I would be interested. Just a little note. I would be interested, and maybe I can look this up myself at some point. But I would honestly be interested in, like, is there historical proof that Nebuchadnezzar fucking was absent for 7 years from his kingship?
We can look it up. One great way I've come to find to track some stuff down like this is to just look up the Wikipedia for the chapter in the Bible, because like every single chapter in the Bible has its own Wikipedia page. Yeah, it doesn't look like this was a real thing that happened, but I don't know.
Okay, here's what the Google AI says.
Okay.
Yes, according to the book of Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar experienced a period of mental illness and lived like an animal for 7 years. This event is attributed to his pride and vanity, says Bible Reading Archaeology. Sounds like a made-up thing.
Yeah.
However, some historians question the historical accuracy of the event, arguing that the 7-year period is inconsistent with the known facts about Nebuchadnezzar's life and reign. So, I mean, you know, it's...
Given that, so this is from the Nebuchadnezzar II Wikipedia page. Given that Nebuchadnezzar is referred to as the father of Belshazzar, which is coming up in the book of Daniel, it is probable that this portrayal of Nebuchadnezzar, especially the story of his madness, was actually based on Belshazzar's actual father, Nabonidus, the last king of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. So this is saying that it wasn't actually about Nebuchadnezzar at all. This story might not have been. It might have been about the next guy that we're going to talk about, the next king, his actual father.
Oh.
Who, like Nebuchadnezzar, if I remember right, is his grandfather.
Nabonidus.
Yeah. So then we seem to warp way ahead in time, and all we get are indications of how far ahead we are. This is now in the final days of the Babylonian Empire. Real history. The king we have been talking about, Nebuchadnezzar, this is probably exactly what we were just saying. Mm-hmm. And when he dies, there are a bunch of kings that come into power and die within just a few years. Before we get to Nabonidus, who we hear about, and his son Belshazzar is the king who we hear about coming up.
Okay, and Balthasar is what they
Belshazzar
also what they've been calling
different spelling. Yeah, and I got a whole thing on this. So Belshazzar. The meaning of it means Bel, protect the king, Bel. So that's the name of their god. Bel. Yeah.
Okay.
Bel refers to the Babylonian god Marduk, apparently.
Okay.
And this is from ChatGPT, so take that for what it's worth. Belshazzar likely means something like Bel, protect his life. So Bel, protect the king, and Bel, protect his life.
Okay.
Is what these names mean, but that's why they're so similar.
Gotcha. Okay.
Chapter 5. King Belshazzar made a great feast for 1,000 of his lords, and he was drinking wine in the presence of the 1,000. Under the influence of the wine, Belshazzar commanded that they bring in the the vessels of gold and silver that his father Nebuchadnezzar, not his real father, had taken out of the temple in Jerusalem, so that the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines might drink from them. So they brought in the vessels of gold that had been taken out of the temple and the house of God in Jerusalem, and the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines drank from them. They drank the wine and praised the gods of gold and silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. Immediately, the fingers of a human hand appeared and began writing on the plaster of the wall of the royal palace next to the lampstand. The king was watching the hand as it wrote. Then the king's face turned pale, and his thoughts terrified him. His thoughts terrified him. His limbs gave way, and his knees knocked together. The king cried aloud to bring in the enchanters, the Chaldeans, and the diviners. And the king said to the wise men of Babylon, "Whoever can read this writing and tell me its interpretation shall be clothed in purple and have a chain of gold around his neck and rank third in the kingdom." Then all the king's wise men came in, but they could not read the writing or tell the king the interpretation. Then King Belshazzar became greatly terrified, and his face turned pale, I guess, and his lords were perplexed. The queen, when she heard the discussion of the king and his lords, came into the banquet hall. The queen said, "O king, live forever. Do not let your thoughts terrify you or your face grow pale, as it always does," I guess is probably what she was thinking. "There is a man in your kingdom who is endowed with a spirit of the holy gods. In the days of your father," again, not his real father, "he was found to have enlightenment, understanding, and wisdom like the wisdom of the gods. Your father, King Nebuchadnezzar," not his real father, "made him chief of the magicians, enchanters, Chaldeans, and diviners, because an excellent spirit, knowledge, and understanding to interpret dreams, explain riddles, blah, 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 magic." So...
Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel's going to come in and talk to him.
So he saw a hand, like a ghost hand?
Yeah.
Writing on the wall.
Yeah.
And it clearly other people could see it too. So like that legitimately, I'm not going to use this in terms of like the story and not like real life. In the story, it wasn't just like a hallucination. There was legitimately writing on the wall.
Right. Yeah. Like a ghost hand writing
in like
on
a
the wall.
language that people couldn't read.
Right.
I assume.
Yeah. I can't remember if it is supposed to be an actual language or not.
So he wasn't
I think
just
it's like
drinking,
heavenly language.
like out of like lead cups or something.
Oh, I'm sure they were also doing that. Yeah.
Like he wasn't just hallucinating.
It was that gold lead, you know. It was like yeah.
Gold poisoning.
Yeah. I think that might be a thing.
It is.
I don't know.
You can poison people with gold.
Probably,
there was a whole house episode about it. Just to tame myself even further.
I like that. It's almost like it was in the Journal of American Medicine. There was a whole house episode about it.
Proof that it exists.
Yeah. Anyway, so it goes on. Then Daniel answered in the presence of the king, "Let your gifts be for yourself, or give your rewards to someone else. Nevertheless, I will read the writing to the king and let him know the interpretation. As for you, O king, the Most High God gave your father Nebuchadnezzar," not his father, "kingship, greatness, glory, and majesty. And because of the greatness that he gave him, all peoples, nations, and languages trembled." And how does a language tremble? "Trembled and feared before him. And you, Belshazzar, his son," not a son, "have not humbled your heart, even though you knew all this. You have exalted yourself against the Lord of heaven. The vessels of his temple have been brought in before you and your lords, your wives, and your concubines have been drinking wine from them. You praise the gods, blah, blah, blah. That's all bad. So from his presence, the hand was sent, and this writing was inscribed. And this is the writing that was inscribed. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
Okay. Many, tekel, and parson. This is the interpretation of the matter. Many. God has numbered the days of your kingdom. And this is M-E-N-E.
Okay.
Okay. So not like M-A-N-Y.
Sure.
It's God has numbered the days of your kingdom and brought it to an end. Tekel, you have been weighed on the scales and found wanting. Perez, so this is different from parson. Your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Then Belshazzar gave the command, and Daniel was clothed in purple. A chain of gold was put around his neck, and a proclamation was made concerning him that he should rank third in the kingdom. That very night, Belshazzar, the Chaldean king, was killed, and Darius the Mede received the kingdom, being about 62 years old.
So wait.
Yeah.
Daniel said he didn't want any of that stuff. And they still gave it to him?
Yeah. Like, that's your takeaway. Wait, he said he didn't want
He
that
didn't
stuff.
want any of that stuff.
I was going to take it.
It's like when I tell people I don't want Christmas presents and people
But
still
I-
buy me
but I
bullshit that I
secretly
don't want. No,
Oh, no.
when people still buy me bullshit that I don't want. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
didn't want these candles.
I
Bath and Body Works.
I don't want this T-shirt from my company.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Stop buying me bullshit I don't want.
right.
That's what I feel for Daniel in that moment. The second one,
Yeah.
what was the second word?
Oh, Tekel.
Means he has been
You have been weighed on the scales and found wanting.
So that is a phrase I recognize.
Found wanting.
The whole thing, the whole phrase. You have been
Oh.
weighed on the scales and found wanting.
I don't think I'm familiar with the full phrase, but
Oh.
that's
Yeah.
you know.
I
Yeah.
feel like,
Well, I mean, I don't know if you picked up on this, but this is where we get writing on the wall.
oh, really?
Yeah, this is where that phrase
you can't
comes
read
from.
the writing on the wall.
Yeah, well, yeah, reading the writing on the
Yeah.
wall and stuff. Yeah. This-
Really?
yeah, this is where
Oh.
that phrase comes from.
Interesting.
Yeah. At least as
Yeah.
far as I'm aware,
You can't-
this is it.
He can't
Yeah.
see the writing on the wall.
I can't. Yeah,
Right?
I feel like
Yeah.
there's a bunch of different ways people
Read
would
the
use
writing
it.
on the wall.
Yeah.
He can't see the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he's
Yeah.
gonna die.
Yeah,
he did.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
He has
yeah.
been weighed on the scales
and found wanting.
and found wanting.
Yeah. And then Perez, your kingdom is divided and given to
But-
the. That never really comes up for people these days.
But also, like,
Like-
you called it something else at the parson?
Yeah, Parsons.
Is it two
I
different
don't
words?
have. Yeah, I don't have anything on this.
Oh, okay.
This might have been when I started giving up on like looking up other shit. And I was like, all right, I just have the excerpts of like
If
what we're
you're
gonna read.
giving up, then none of the people who listen to this podcast have any
I know.
morning.
Because it's like, what the fuck? Do we really care
No.
what Parsons and Perez means?
Yeah, that's fine.
You know what I
It's
mean?
just weird that it switched.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's annoying.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at with it.
Okay. All right. That's
You know,
fair. That's fair.
like-
Yeah.
It pisses me off. But it's like
Moving
every time I look into it, it's like, oh, that's why.
Different
Okay.
translation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some bullshit. Sure.
And then another thing nobody will pay attention to.
Listen, we only have so many moments in our life. Why waste one of them looking
Yeah.
at why they changed the word?
Right, exactly. Exactly. Okay, so moving on. Lion's Den.
Oh, the
Yeah.
story the whole world knows.
Yes.
Even atheists.
And by the story, we know that there's something called Daniel and the Lion's Den. Like, do you know what the story of Daniel and the Lion's Den is?
It's not the one where the mouse removes the thorn from the
Yeah, Daniel the mouse. Yeah. And Aslan the lion. It's Aslan.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when you go through the wardrobe.
Right.
He's the lion.
I feel like this could totally be a thing that you would have, that fucking, who was that? Lewis.
Oh,
C.S. Lewis would have done too, as like a prequel. Daniel the mouse pulled the thorn from Aslan's paw.
Let me see if I can remember anything about this at all. So Daniel does something.
Okay, sure.
That pisses somebody off.
Okay.
And so they throw him in like a gladiator style sort of fight against a lion.
Okay.
And he does not die. The end.
Okay. But that's kind of it. Like, I honestly,
I don't know much detail.
I know. It's that, like, honestly, I would probably have said the same thing. Like, I could not remember for the fucking life of me what the story was.
Right.
I thought it was something like God somehow stopped the jaws from biting him and stuff, or something like that. And you realize,
then
like,
started building a hive in the carcass of the lion.
From
and then
Samson.
Daniel fed the lion honey to people.
Blood honey.
Blood honey, yes.
God, that fucking Samson, man.
He's a douche.
Such a dumbass.
Anyway, okay. All right, let's get to the actual story. This is chapter 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the last story of like the
folky stories.
Yes.
For the most part. So anyway, fucking, where were we on this? So King Darius.
You hadn't started it at all. You just asked me what.
That's right. Okay. I haven't read the exposition part. So King Darius, now the new king.
Yes. The Mede.
Yes. The Mede puts all these managers out into the kingdom.
Managers.
Yeah. So,
created a bureaucracy.
Right. That's what they all, they're all in charge of a bureaucracy, really, at the end. And he has these 3 main guys overseeing them. One of the guys is Daniel, who must be quite old at this point, you would imagine. The king likes Daniel a little too much. So all these other administrators try to drum up, and satraps, that's what they keep calling them. So they drum up something against Daniel that they can bring to the king. They can't find anything because he's so good.
Of course.
So they decide to use his religion against him.
Oh, yeah, because that's worked out in the past.
Yeah. Apparently, they have not heard about this Daniel guy.
They just haven't done any of their homework. Right. Yeah.
They didn't know about his alias, Belshazzar. That's what his rap sheet was under.
We looked up Daniel on Google and didn't get anything.
Yeah. So they get the king to sign an order that says everyone must only pray to the king for 30 days or they'll be thrown into a den of lions. And then we get this. Although Daniel knew that the document had been signed, he continued to go to his house, which had windows in its upper room toward Jerusalem, and to get down on his knees 3 times a day and to pray to his God and to praise him, just as he had done previously. Then those men watched and found Daniel praying and seeking mercy before his God. They approached the king and said concerning the interdict, "O king, did you not sign an interdict that blah, 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 blah? Yes, I did. Oh, God, what did I do? Now I'm going to kill Daniel, even though I don't want to." is basically what he...
Forgetting that he's the king and he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah. Because there's no way he can get out of this.
Yeah.
Right? So then at dawn, the king got up and at first light hurried... Oh, wait, sorry. Let me back up a little bit. Then the king gave the command, and Daniel was brought and thrown into the den of lions. The king said to Daniel, "May your God, whom you faithfully serve, deliver you." A stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring, with the signet ring of his lords, so that nothing might be changed concerning Daniel. Really selling it. You know, there's no possible way that anything else could have happened here. Then the king went to his palace and spent the night fasting. No entertainment was brought to him, and sleep fled from him. Okay.
He's upset he had to do this to his guy.
Yep, really like Daniel. Old man Daniel. Yeah. Uncle Daniel.
I mean, you know, we all got those old guys in our life that were like, you're a solid guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then at dawn, the king got up and at first light hurried down to the den of lions. When he came near the den where Daniel was, he cried out anxiously to Daniel, "Oh, Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you faithfully serve, been able to deliver you from the lions?" Daniel then said to the king, "No, I'm dead."
That would be awesome.
Yeah. "O king, live forever. My God has sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths so that they would not hurt me." So they could still have like taken him out with a paw.
Sure. Yeah. But listen, if you're laying there and something invisible probably is coming and holding your mouth shut, you're not going to keep doing whatever it is that you were doing.
Do you think those angels like were struggling to keep them out?
Like lions are certainly at the end of the day just big cats. So if Frodo was still around and you just walked up to Frodo and held his mouth shut, he wouldn't then try to paw at you. He would be like, "What the fuck is going on?"
He probably would have just frozen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
These lions are like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Yeah. All night.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't even lick my own asshole.
They're just like doing that thing where they just shake their head back and forth.
The paws
yeah.
At the face.
Right. Couple of angels are just like, psst, psst, psst. No.
You really, all you got to do is put like clothes on them and then they just won't move at all.
Yeah. Put a happy hoodie on them. A holy happy hoodie.
Holy happy hoodie.
Oh, that's an ad. All right.
So Daniel's chilling with the lions. They haven't eaten him because the angels are holding their mouths shut.
Yeah.
And was the idea, I'm sorry, the rock that was in place and sealed by the king's signet ring, was that like the rock to make sure that the lions didn't like go back into their little, like what? I guess I don't understand.
So it's like, they're not, it's not clear, but it sounds like it's a cave.
Okay.
Right? The lion's den is like a cave.
In the cave.
Sealed him into the cave is what it sounds like to me.
Okay. And somehow his ring, they put a little wax seal on it that he pressed so that you could tell. Kind of like, this is going to probably be something very select people understand, but like when you ship stuff in a fucking tractor trailer, you put a little plastic ring on that. Like, yeah. So if you're shipping goods, if you're a company,
I know what you're
shipping goods
talking
in a
about.
Semi, they put this tiny little fucking plastic seal on the truck, and if it's broken, then somebody's
gotten in there,
right? Yeah. And that's, I'm assuming they dripped some.
That's
wax.
basically that's basically it. Yeah, that's the idea.
Right.
Kind of like you would have, sealed a scroll that's a message to somebody.
So he pressed his ring into it, saying he had been there.
Yeah.
And then assuming that the seal was still intact, that nobody went and helped him in the middle of the night.
It's interesting to me, like when you come across writings like this, where it's like, okay, somebody really went through the effort of being like, no, like there's no way that anything could have happened. Like they were obviously dealing with people like Daniel probably just left in the middle of the night and everything.
Yeah.
And somebody, some priest, some scribe or somebody along the way.
No, we sealed
like,
it with a rock.
No,
and
there was, and there was this, and that it definitely happened, like,
he couldn't have gone anywhere.
And what it bugs me about it is it's like, why is any of that in there? Like, why is this what's like really
right?
Like the thing that's going to stop you.
Be like, yeah, he just went home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he came back in the morning. That's what I would
do.
He
just rolled the stone away.
Yeah. The giant boulder blocking the fucking cave entrance.
Yeah. With the lions coming out.
Yeah. Definitely. That's why.
And the lions stayed in there.
Right.
They didn't get out.
Yeah. They were too scared.
Yeah. He put the stone back and then he came back in the morning.
Rolled the stone back. Got in the cave, rolled the stone back into place.
Right.
Clearly he had people helping him.
Yeah.
Yeah. His dudes.
We got to cover this hole in the story.
Let's put a wax seal on.
Yeah. It feels a lot like when we were reading through all the stuff around Jesus's death too, where it was like all these different things that they would come up with for like, well, no, he definitely was in the tomb.
Right.
And like,
he was definitely dead. He was definitely there.
These people saw it.
There were only ladies there. They couldn't have moved a rock.
Right. And women are too dumb to lie.
Right. Yes, definitely. It's not something they've been doing since the beginning of time to fucking make men feel better about themselves.
No shit. Especially right after they just had their Messiah killed.
Right. Yeah, no, he was totally dead. We saw him and then he came back to life.
Yeah. It was real surprising.
What happened?
Anyway. So then at dawn, he was fine. King Darius wrote all the people. So blah, 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 blah. Then King Darius wrote to all the peoples and nations of every language throughout the whole world, may you have abundant prosperity, and I make a decree that in all my royal dominion people shall tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. And I imagine most people were like, who's Daniel?
That's probably true.
They would have to fill in like who this is.
Okay. Yeah. Do you guys know who Daniel is? I mean, I just moved here. Am I missing something?
You're right. I feel like he's not even like a royalty. Like, why would anybody know who he is?
Anyway. Years have gone by, and like they had to call him into the palace,
right? Yeah,
to read the fucking handwriting of the ghost hand.
Yeah. So anyway, all that is to say, Daniel continues to prosper under Darius.
So that's the whole Daniel and the Lion's Den, is that he was thrown into a cave with lions and lived?
Yeah.
Some of these stories are so disappointing when you actually get to them.
Oh, I know. Most of them are.
Yeah.
Like the vast majority. There's very few of these that we've come across where it's like, oh my God. Yeah. And normally it's because it's so horrendous.
You know, VeggieTales never did a episode on Ezekiel.
Yeah. I wonder if they did. That would be an interesting thing to look up.
They definitely did Daniel and the Lion's Den for sure. Not that I ever watched VeggieTales.
Well, you can see
imagine.
You can see how this is like tame stuff that you could do. Like this is the stuff that you can deliver to children.
They're
you know.
the only reason their VeggieTales exist is because Daniel only ate fucking vegetables.
Right. Is that true?
No, I don't know.
I could totally see that being a thing.
Right?
Yeah.
I have no idea why they're vegetables.
Right.
But it's very weird.
I feel like that could also be something the creator have said. I have no idea why they're vegetables. It just is what worked. It's what sold. Anyway, it's a really interesting idea going through like
VeggieTales,
like children's stuff and seeing how they do this shit. So anyway, moving on, chapter 7. So this is when we go from narratives to the actual end times predictions.
Yes. Okay.
You can't really tell from hearing it, but this chapter does keep going back and forth from prose to poetry, like we've seen before. A lot of descriptions are poetry, and it looks like the prose are meant to kind of piece together the poetry stuff, you know. Mm-hmm. In the first year of King Belshazzar of Babylon, Daniel had a dream. And, oh, that's right. So this does kind of go back in time.
Yeah, they're doing like a...
Yeah, but it doesn't... But, yeah, there's a reason. In the first year of King Belshazzar of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head as he lay in bed, where he read. Then he wrote down the dream. I, Daniel, so now the first person, I, Daniel, saw in my vision by night the 4 winds of heaven stirring up the great sea, and 4 great beasts came up out of the sea, different from one another. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. Then, as I watched, its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the ground and made to stand on 2 feet like a human being. And a human mind was given to it. Another beast appeared, a second one that looked like a bear. It was raised up on one side and had 3 tusks in its mouth among its teeth, and was told, "Arise, devour many bodies." After this, as I watched, another appeared, like a leopard. The beast had 4 wings of a bird and its back, and 4 heads. And dominion was given to it. After this, what are you?
I'm looking at pictures.
Oh, you're looking at pictures. Yeah. After this, I saw in the visions by night a 4th beast, terrifying and dreadful, exceedingly strong. And it had great iron teeth and was devouring, breaking in pieces, stamping what was left with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that preceded it, and it had 10 horns. I was considering the horns when another horn appeared, a little one that came up among them. 3 of the original horns were plucked up from before it, and there were eyes, like human eyes, in this horn, and a mouth speaking arrogantly.
These are terrifying looking creatures.
Yeah.
I mean, one's clearly like a griffin.
Yeah, was this part in VeggieTales?
Again, I haven't actually watched VeggieTales.
Right.
So it looks like conclusively anybody who's like drawn these or like put these sort of, because they don't describe the 4th one too much other than it has horns, but it looks to me like most people have drawn it like a dinosaur.
Oh, really?
So there's a lion with wings, and then the bear with the weird fucking tusks coming out of its mouth, and then a leopard with lots of faces and wings.
Yeah.
And then basically like a lizard or dinosaur of some sort or a dragon is what most people seem to think that this 4th one was, weirdly enough.
Joe Rogan probably thinks it was a dragon.
Definitely. He definitely thinks it's a dragon.
Right. It goes on. As I watched, thrones were set in place, and an ancient one took his throne. His clothing was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was fiery flames, and its wheels were burning fire. A stream of fire issued and flowed from his presence. 1,000 thousands served him. So like
1,000 thousands.
So tens
of thousands, thousands of thousands, hundred thousands, millions. Yes. They just didn't have that word back then, I think.
Yeah, so millions. 1,000 thousands served him, and 10,000 times 10,000. Jesus, why do I have to do the math?
I know, right? Just what's 10,000 is 100,000.
Stood attending him. The court sat in judgment, and the books were opened. I watched then because of the noise that the arrogant words that the horn was speaking. And as I watched, the beast was put to death and its body destroyed and given over to be burned with fire. As for the rest of the beasts, their dominion was taken away, but their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. As I watched in the night visions, I saw one like a human being coming with the clouds of heaven. Ew. And he came to the Ancient One and was presented before him. To him was given the dominion and the glory and kingship, and all the peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, blah, 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 great stuff. Man. All right.
So his dream was that he saw 4 beasts.
Yeah.
And then an ancient man.
Yeah.
And then a angel.
Something like that. Yeah. I know. It's so hard to keep all this shit straight for me. Let's just blow through. As for me, Daniel, my spirit was troubled within me. The visions of my head terrified me. I approached one of the attendants to ask them the truth concerning all this, and he said that he would disclose to me the interpretation of the matter. Just this attendant.
Yeah. Daniel, the famous interpreter of dreams, needs an attendant.
Apparently.
To tell him what his dream means.
As for these 4 great beasts, 4 kings shall arise out of the earth, but the holy ones of the Most High shall receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and ever and ever. Then I desired to know the truth concerning the 4th beast, which was different from all the rest, exceedingly terrifying. Blah, blah, blah. This is what he said. As for the 4th beast, there shall be a 4th kingdom on earth that shall be different from all the other kingdoms. It shall devour the whole earth and trample it down into pieces. As for the 10 horns, out of the kingdom, 10 kings shall arise to come after them. And then 2 times.
This is England.
This is like, yeah, it's all this shit.
English colonies.
That's kind of an interesting idea. That's the thing, is this, it has this description that's like a lot of stuff could have applied to this over the years.
Definitely. I mean, even with Nostradamus, like his most famous one where they say that he predicted Hitler. You can apply that. Every prophecy can be applied historically.
Oh, the stuff about the Antichrist absolutely could have applied to Hitler.
Yeah.
In the Bible. The only issue with it is that he died.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like, shit.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that, he would have been a great Antichrist.
Sure.
Anyway, so from Wikipedia, many scholars have accepted the view that the imagery of Daniel 7 comes ultimately from the Canaanite myth of the Baal battle with Yam, symbolic of chaos. Although no exact prototype of the imagery exists, there are a number of parallels with this myth. The 4 beasts are chaos monsters which appeared to serpents in the Baal cycle, discovered in the ruins of Ugrit. So just a little bit north of Israel is this town called Ugrit. And they found there thousands and thousands of tablets of like hymns and different religious writings. And it's where we get a lot of our insight into what Canaanite religion was like. Because this was like right outside, like on the borderland of Canaan and stuff. But like, this is where we found it, stuff about Yahweh and his wife Astarta, you know, and that kind of stuff. I'm trying to find like the important stuff out of this. According to this, the lion is Babylon, the bear is the Medes, the leopard is Persia, and then the fourth beast is the Greeks, and particularly the Seleucid Empire. The 10 horns appear on the beast, is a round number standing for the Seleucid kings. So like there's all those different kings trying to take power in that empire, basically. That's what they are. The little horn is Antiochus himself. So this was the guy who sacrificed the pig in the temple. Antiochus was that guy. So he's the little horn who speaks arrogantly. Oh. And there are a lot of people who, again, will attribute all of this stuff to people who come later. And that means, therefore, this was actually
a prophecy.
Because
they're attributing it to something that has come later.
Right.
But in reality, this was written about people who had
already existed at this point.
They're writing it in a time in which this would have been a prophecy. So like they're writing a period piece essentially.
Right.
But they're writing it in a time where all of that stuff would have already happened.
Yeah, it's a forgery. At the end of the day, this is a forgery. Right. This is them
because they're trying to say it happened.
They're putting it in the mouth of Daniel.
Right.
That this is a prophecy but it was something that they had written after the events had all happened.
Right.
Yeah. All right, that's it.
Sorry for the short chop.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like the end because it's not.
Yeah.
Woo, magic of editing. More to come later.
Right. See you in a couple weeks.
For more Daniel.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They all lived miserably ever after. Thank you so much for checking out our podcast. Help us grow the audience by sharing us with your friends or giving us a share on social media. And we love hearing from you. You can reach out on our website at bsfa.cc. Oh shit, I wasn't recording.
Oh my God. I would literally just message everyone on the Reddit board now and be like, sorry guys, this show is just over. Josh didn't record one of the episodes and I'm not ever doing it again.
Yeah.
So